The sun cast its golden hue over the bustling city of Nairobi, where the rhythm of life pulsed through every street and alleyway. Amidst the cacophony of honking horns and the chatter of street vendors, a young girl named Amina navigated the crowded sidewalks with practiced ease. At 16, she possessed a keen intellect and an insatiable curiosity that set her apart from her peers. Amina's mother, Fatima, worked as a janitor at the prestigious Kiongozi Investments, a towering skyscraper that dominated the city's skyline. Every evening, after school, Amina would accompany her mother to the building, helping with cleaning duties and absorbing the atmosphere of corporate ambition that permeated the halls. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Amina and her mother arrived at Kiongozi Investments. The lobby, adorned with marble floors and gleaming chandeliers, exuded opulence. As they made their way to the elevators, Amina couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the grandeur surrounding her. Their routine was familiar. Fatima would clean the executive offices on the top floors, while Amina handled the conference rooms and common areas. It was during one of these cleaning sessions that Amina's life would take an unexpected turn. In the dimly lit conference room on the 27th floor, Amina noticed a folder left open on the table. Curiosity piqued, she approached and glanced at the documents inside. The title read, "Final Draft Merger Agreement." Her eyes scanned the pages, and a particular clause caught her attention. Subparagraph C, line 3. In the event of any post-merger liabilities, Kiongozi Investments shall assume full responsibility, absolving the partnering firm of any legal or financial repercussions. Amina's brow furrowed. She had recently studied business law in school and recognized the implications of such a clause. It seemed designed to shift all potential liabilities onto Kiongozi Investments, leaving the partnering firm unscathed. Her heart pounded as she realized the gravity of the situation. She knew she had to act. The next morning, Amina returned to the building, determination etched on her face. She waited patiently outside the boardroom, where a meeting was underway to finalize the merger agreement. As the doors opened, she stepped inside, interrupting the proceedings. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady. "I believe there's a clause in the merger agreement that warrants your attention." The room fell silent as executives turned to face her. The CEO, Mr. Mwangi, raised an eyebrow. "And who might you be?" "I'm Amina, Fatima's daughter," she replied. "I was helping her clean last night and came across the agreement. There's a clause that shifts all post-merger liabilities onto Kiongozi Investments." Mwangi exchanged glances with his colleagues before gesturing for the document. As he read the clause, his expression darkened. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Amina." In the days that followed, the merger was halted, and an internal investigation was launched. Amina's actions had prevented a potentially disastrous deal, and her courage did not go unnoticed. News of her intervention spread, and she was invited to speak at various business forums and educational institutions. Her story inspired many, highlighting the importance of vigilance and integrity. Amina's life had changed irrevocably. From a janitor's daughter to a symbol of ethical responsibility, she had proven that age and background were no barriers to making a difference. As she stood at the podium of a prestigious business conference, addressing an audience of industry leaders, Amina smiled, knowing that her journey was just beginning. Amina's world had transformed overnight. What had started as a routine evening shift at Kiongozi Investments had led her into a labyrinth of corporate intrigue that even she could barely comprehend. The boardroom's hush after she'd spoken out still echoed in her mind, mingling with the memory of Mr. Mwangi's ashen face as he read the clause that could have bankrupted the company. But Nairobi's skyline didn't pause for reflection. By the time Amina returned home that evening, the city lights gleamed as bright as ever. The aroma of grilled meat from street vendors mingled with the diesel fumes of passing matatus. Home was a cramped one-bedroom apartment in a low-rise block near the market, its walls cracked and paint peeling. Amina had never minded its modesty before, but tonight it felt too small to hold the weight she carried. Inside, Fatima was stirring a pot of sukuma wiki. Her mother's back was stooped from years of scrubbing floors, her hands red and raw from harsh detergents. She turned when Amina entered, her brow already creased with worry. "Why are you home so late?" Fatima asked, her voice taut. Amina hesitated. How could she explain everything? The merger, the contract, the conference room, the clause, the possibility that she'd just saved a corporation worth billions, and that she might have made powerful enemies. "There was a meeting," she began carefully, "and I had to speak up about something important." Fatima set down the spoon, eyes sharp. "Speak up. Amina, that's not our place." "But Mama," Amina protested, her voice trembling, "it was wrong. The contract was a trap, shifting all the blame onto Kiongozi. I couldn't just stand there and say nothing." Fatima's expression darkened. "You're a child. You think you know these things, but these people, they have power, influence. You think they'll thank you for sticking your nose where it doesn't belong?" Amina's heart sank. "I was trying to help. They listened, Mama. The CEO thanked me." Fatima shook her head, her voice heavy. "Sometimes doing the right thing isn't enough, Amina. Sometimes it makes you a target." Amina fell silent, the weight of her mother's warning settling on her shoulders like a yoke. The warmth of home seemed to fade, replaced by an unfamiliar chill. That night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling, her mind a tangle of questions and fear. What if Mama was right? What if speaking up had put them both in danger? Her thoughts drifted to the man in the boardroom, Mr. Mwangi, his gaze sharp and calculating. Had he really meant his thanks? Or had he just been buying time? She reached for the old laptop that sat on the floor beside her bed, its keys worn shiny from hours of homework. She powered it on and opened a blank document. It felt like the only place she could still make sense of the chaos. She typed, "What happens to people who tell the truth?" Then, beneath it, "And what happens to the ones who want to bury it?" Sleep came only in fragments. The next morning, Amina rose before dawn. Fatima had already left for work, leaving a note on the counter. "Please be careful. I love you." Amina folded the note into her pocket and headed out, determined to find answers. At Kiongozi Investments, the atmosphere was tense. Security guards hovered near the entrance, their eyes scanning every visitor's ID badge with extra scrutiny. Amina's own badge, visitor, maintenance, suddenly felt like a fragile shield. She took the elevator to the 27th floor, her pulse quickening with every ding of the passing floors. When the doors opened, she stepped into a hallway that felt different, less like a corporate palace and more like a trap. Mr. Mwangi's assistant, a tall woman with sharp eyes named Wanjiku, intercepted her. "Amina," she said briskly, "Mr. Mwangi wants to see you." Amina's stomach clenched. "About the merger?" Wanjiku's expression didn't change. "Come with me." The CEO's office was sleek and modern, walls of glass overlooking Nairobi's skyline. Wangi sat behind a massive mahogany desk, his dark suit immaculate, his fingers steepled in thought. "Amina," he said, his voice low but not unkind. "You showed remarkable courage yesterday." "Thank you, sir," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But courage," he continued, "sometimes comes at a cost." He pushed a folder across the desk. "This is a copy of the merger contract you flagged. I've had my legal team review it line by line. They agree with you someone tried to bury us in liabilities." Amina's breath caught. "So, what happens now?" Wangi leaned back. "Now, we find out who did this and why." He paused, studying her. "You've shown you're observant, more observant than most. I'd like your help." Amina's eyes widened. "My help? But you're just the one who caught what no one else saw," Wangi interrupted. "I want you to keep your eyes and ears open. If you see anything, hear anything that feels wrong, you come straight to me. Understood?" Amina nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." Wangi smiled thinly. "Good. And, Amina, be careful. Whoever planted that clause may not take kindly to being exposed." She left the office on trembling legs. The air outside felt thicker somehow, heavy with unspoken threats. As she walked down the hallway, she spotted Chinwe Mwangi, Mr. Mwangi's wife, standing near the elevators. Chinwe's beauty was striking. High cheekbones, tailored suit, perfectly styled hair. But her eyes were cold as polished stone. Chinwe's gaze locked onto Amina, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes curved her lips. "You must be the little hero," she said, her voice smooth as silk. Amina felt her mouth go dry. I just saw something wrong, that's all." Chinwe's smile sharpened. "People who see too much sometimes find themselves in unfortunate circumstances." She leaned closer. "I'd hate for anything unfortunate to happen to you, or your mother." Amina's heart thudded. "Are you threatening me?" Chinwe straightened, her expression returning to polite indifference. "Of course not. I'm simply reminding you be careful where you stick your nose." She turned and disappeared into the elevator, leaving the faint scent of expensive perfume hanging in the air. Amina's knees felt weak. She pressed her back against the wall, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Chinwe's words echoed in her mind like a warning bell. That afternoon, she retreated to a small staff break room, her hands trembling as she fished out her phone. She needed help, someone who knew more than she did. She scrolled through her contacts, but none of her classmates or teachers would understand. She considered calling Wangi again, but hesitated. Who else could she trust? Suddenly, a message popped up on her screen. No name, just a number she didn't recognize. "You were right. Watch your back." Her fingers hovered over the screen. "Who are you?" she typed. No reply. She stared at the message, her pulse hammering. She had stumbled into something bigger than a single contract, and she was more alone than ever. At home that night, Fatima sensed her daughter's fear. She set down the broom she'd been holding and pulled Amina into a hug. "I don't know what's happening, my daughter," she whispered, "but whatever it is, we will face it together." Amina closed her eyes, the scent of soap and sweat and home filling her senses. She wanted to believe her mother's words, but the memory of Chinwe's threat and the cryptic message on her phone made her stomach twist. Later, unable to sleep, Amina powered on her laptop. She opened a blank document, her fingers trembling. "Who tried to destroy Kiongozi?" she typed. She didn't know yet, but she was determined to find out. Outside, the city hummed with life. Matatas honked, laughter rose from street corners, and somewhere in the darkness, the powerful plotted their next move. But in a cramped apartment in Nairobi's shadow, a 16-year-old girl had decided she wouldn't stay silent. She would watch. She would listen. And when the time was right, she would strike back. Because sometimes, even the smallest voice can change everything. The sun had barely risen when Amna found herself back in the steel and glass tower of Kiongozi Investments. The building loomed overhead like a fortress, its reflective panels catching the dawn light and throwing it across the street in dazzling streaks. She tightened her grip on her mother's old backpack, inside which lay the notes she'd scribbled through the nightlines and circles connecting names, transactions, and the tangled threads of a corporate web she was only beginning to understand. Security had been tightened since her last visit. A uniformed guard at the front desk eyed her suspiciously. "Purpose of visit?" he asked, his tone clipped. "I'm here to see Mr. Mwangi," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The guard frowned. "Name?" "Amina Williams," she said. "He's expecting me." The guard made a call, listened, and then nodded. 27th floor, he said, his tone softening slightly. "Good luck, kid." The elevator ride felt like an eternity. As the doors opened, she stepped into a hallway that seemed eerily quiet. At the end, Mr. Mwangi's office glowed with warm light. She approached, knocked softly, and was ushered inside. Mwangi sat at his desk, a stack of documents spread out before him like a battlefield map. His sleeves were rolled up and his eyes looked older than she remembered. "Amina," he said, standing to greet her. "Thank you for coming." She nodded. "What's happened, sir? Why all the security?" He gestured to the chair opposite his. "Sit. We need to talk." She sat, clutching her backpack to her chest like a shield. Mwangi exhaled heavily. "We've been digging into the contract you found. My legal team cross-checked every clause, every signature, every financial statement, and it's worse than we thought." Amina's pulse quickened. "Worse? How?" He leaned forward, voice low. "That clause you flagged, it's part of a larger pattern. Damien Okoye's firm has done this before. We found at least 3 other mergers where his clients walked away clean while the target companies collapsed under the weight of legal liabilities. Each time, the language was buried deep in sub-paragraphs and footnotes, easy to overlook unless you were looking for it." Amina felt a chill run down her spine. So this was planned. Mwangi nodded grimly. Planned and executed with precision. But here's the part that worries me the most. He pushed a folder across the desk. Inside, printed emails, transaction records, and travel itineraries told a damning story. "My wife, Chinwei," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "She's been in contact with Damien for months. We have evidence of secret meetings, financial transfers to offshore accounts. She's working with him." Amina's heart dropped. "Your wife? But she's not the woman I thought she was," Mwangi said bitterly. "She's been helping Damien build this trap from the inside, using my own company's resources. She's smart, she covered her tracks well, but you saw what none of us did. You saw the first crack." Amina swallowed hard. "What do we do now?" Mwangi's eyes hardened. "We fight back, but we can't do it alone. That's why I called in help." He stood and opened the door to his private conference room. Inside, a woman in a tailored suit stood by the window, her arms crossed. She turned as Amina entered, her expression both fierce and kind. "Amina, this is Victoria Chan," Mwangi said. "She's a civil rights lawyer, a former prosecutor. If anyone can help us build a case against Damien and Chinwei, it's her." Victoria extended a hand. "I've read your notes," she said, her voice crisp but warm. "You're thorough and you're brave. We need both." Amina felt a surge of determination. She shook Victoria's hand. "What do you need me to do?" Victoria smiled. "I need you to tell me everything you've seen and heard, every conversation, every suspicious glance, every document. You're the key witness, Amina. And if we're going to bring them down, we need you at the center." For the next 2 hours, Amina recounted everything, her first glimpse of the contract, Chinwee's icy threat, the anonymous text message, and the uneasy feeling that someone had been watching her. Victoria took notes, her pen flying across the page. When Amina finished, Victoria leaned back. "They're building a fortress of lies," she said. "But every fortress has a weak point, and you just showed us where to start digging." Mwangi nodded. "We'll need evidence more than just the claws. Financial records, offshore accounts, emails. Damien and Chinwei have covered their tracks, but no one's perfect." Amina's mind raced. "I remember on the night I found the contract, I saw Chinwei leaving the building late. She was carrying a silver flash drive. It looked important." Victoria's eyes lit up. "A flash drive? If we can find it, it might have everything we need. But it's risky. Chinwei's not going to hand it over willingly." Amina felt her stomach knot. What if she's already destroyed it? Victoria shook her head. "People like Chinwei keep secrets close. She'll have a copy somewhere. We just have to find it." Just then, Mwangi's assistant Wanjiku appeared at the door, her face pale. "Sir," she whispered, "Chinwei is in the lobby. She's demanding to see you." Mwangi's jaw clenched. "She's early. Stay here." He rose, adjusting his tie, his eyes hard as steel. "Amina, Victoria, stay hidden. If she suspects we're on to her, she'll run." Amina's breath caught. "Be careful, sir." Mwangi nodded and stepped out. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Amina and Victoria in tense silence. Victoria pulled her phone from her pocket, fingers dancing across the screen. "Send in a request to my contacts at the Financial Crimes Unit," she murmured. "If we can freeze her accounts, we can stop her from disappearing." Amina watched, awe and fear mingling. "Do you think we can win?" Victoria looked up, her gaze fierce. "With the truth on our side? Yes, but it won't be easy." Minutes ticked by, each one stretching like an hour. Finally, Mwangi returned, his face pale but determined. "She knows something's wrong," he said. "She's suspicious, but she hasn't run yet. We have a narrow window." Victoria nodded. "Then we move now. Amina, do you think you could get into Chinwei's office? Maybe find that flash drive?" Amina's pulse raced. I don't know. She keeps it locked, but you've cleaned that office every night for weeks," Victoria said gently. "You know its rhythms, its secrets. If anyone can do this, it's you." Amina swallowed hard. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her. But then she thought of her mother, scrubbing floors so she could go to school. She thought of the workers whose jobs depended on Kiongozi staying afloat. She thought of the truth that no one else had dared to see. "I'll do it," she said, her voice clear. "Tell me what I need to do." Victoria smiled, fierce and proud. "You're a brave girl, Amina. Let's get to work." Together, they mapped out a plan. Amina would slip into Chinwei's office under the guise of routine cleaning, using her badge to bypass security. She'd search for the flash drive or any hint of its location. Victoria would coordinate with the Financial Crimes Unit, ready to act the moment they had proof. The sun was setting by the time they were ready. Amina's hands trembled as she zipped her backpack. "What if she catches me?" she whispered. Victoria met her gaze. "Then you hold your head high, because you're not the one who should be afraid." Amina nodded, her heart pounding. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and stepped out of the office. The hallway stretched before her like a gauntlet. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every footstep echoing with menace. She reached Chinwei's office door and swiped her badge. The lock clicked open, and she slipped inside. The room smelled of expensive perfume and polished wood. A glass wall offered a view of the city below, lights twinkling like 1,000 tiny stars. Her eyes scanned the room. Desk drawers, shelves, a sleek laptop. She moved quickly, her fingers trembling as she searched. Finally, in the bottom drawer of the mahogany desk, she found a small silver flash drive, its surface gleaming like a secret. She snatched it up, her heart leaping. She turned to leave but froze. Chinwei stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the hallway light. Her eyes glinted like knives. "Looking for something?" she purred. Amina's blood ran cold. I was just—" "Spare me the lies," Chinwei spat, stepping into the room. "You think you can stop me? You're just a child, a cleaner's daughter. You have no idea what you're up against." Amina's hands shook, but she held her ground. "Maybe, but I know the truth, and that's enough." Chinwei's lips curled in a cruel smile. "The truth won't save you, or your mother." She took a step forward, but Amina darted past her, flash drive clutched in her hand. Chinwei lunged, but Amina was faster, bursting into the hallway. She ran, her heart pounding, footsteps echoing like gunshots. Behind her, Chinwei shouted, but Amina didn't look back. She raced down the stairs, every muscle screaming, until she reached the lobby. Victoria was waiting. "Did you get it?" she demanded. Amina thrust the flash drive into her hand. "Go, now." Victoria's eyes gleamed. "You did it, Amina. You just turned the tables." And in that moment, as security guards converged and Chinwei's shrieks echoed down the stairwell, Amina felt something she'd never felt before. Power. Because sometimes even the smallest spark can ignite a revolution. Amina's hands trembled as she handed the flash drive to Victoria. The two of them stood in the lobby of Kiongozi Investments, just beyond the sightline of Chinwei's shrieking protests echoing from above. Security guards hustled to intervene, their radios crackling with confusion. Victoria's jaw clenched as she took the drive, her fingers wrapping around it like a lifeline. "This is it," she said, her voice low and fierce. "This is what we need to bring them down." Amina's heart pounded so hard it hurt. "What if it's not enough?" she whispered. "What if they find a way to bury it?" Victoria's eyes hardened. "Then we dig deeper," she said, "because the truth doesn't die easy." An hour later, in a small conference room on the building's ground floor, Victoria connected the flash drive to her laptop. The screen flickered, illuminating the dim room as files loaded, dozens of them, each labeled with cryptic names: Blue Sky Transaction, Offshore Transfer, Liability Clause Backup. Amina leaned over Victoria's shoulder, her breath caught in her throat. This is everything," Victoria said, scanning line after line of financial statements, email threads, and signatures. Chinwei and Damien left a trail a mile wide. She clicked open a document, a spreadsheet mapping shell companies to bank accounts in Mauritius, the Cayman Islands, and Switzerland. Each one led back to Chinwei's name or to Damien's. Amina's stomach churned. "They were planning to collapse Kiongozi from the inside," she whispered, "and then walk away clean." Victoria's lips tightened. "And it would have worked if not for you." Before Amina could respond, the conference room door swung open. Mwangi stepped inside, his face pale but determined. He'd aged a decade since the day she first met him. The lines around his eyes had deepened, and his shoulders hunched as if carrying the weight of the entire building. "I've spoken to our board," he said. "They're divided. Some want to protect Chinwei, keep it quiet, say it's a family matter. Others want a full investigation, but none of them wanted to be the one to stand on the record." Amina's chest ached. "What will you do?" Wangi's gaze met hers, tired but resolute. "I'm going to tell the truth," he said, "because I built this company on trust. And if trust dies, then Kiongozi dies with it." Victoria nodded approvingly. "I've already contacted the Financial Crimes Bureau," she said. "If we get this in front of a judge, Chinwei and Damien won't walk away. But we'll need testimony. And not just from you, Mwangi." She turned to Amina. "We'll need you, too." Amina froze. "Me? But I'm just—" "You're the one who saw it," Victoria said gently. "You're the one who sounded the alarm. Without you, this story never breaks. You are our key witness, Amina." The words settled over Amina like a weight and a blessing all at once. She thought of her mother scrubbing floors on her hands and knees, of the shame she'd felt for being just a cleaner's daughter. But now she was more than that. Wangi's voice cut through her thoughts. "Amina," he said, if you testify, it will put a target on your back. Chinwei and Damien will come after you. I can protect you here, but—" Amina raised her chin. "No," she said firmly. "I'm not hiding. If I don't speak, then all of this—" She gestured to the screen, to the files, to the web of lies. "It's for nothing." Victoria's eyes shone with pride. "Then let's get you ready." The courtroom in downtown Nairobi was nothing like Amina expected. It smelled of old wood polish and paper, and the air was thick with a tension that felt almost alive. Reporters lined the benches, their cameras flashing like lightning with every movement. Outside, protesters held handmade signs. "Justice for Kiongozi," and "Truth has no age." Amina sat at a wooden bench beside Victoria. Her mother, Fatima, sat behind her, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her eyes glistened with tears, but her chin was high. She was proud Amina could feel it. Mwangi sat at the front, surrounded by his legal team. Chinwei sat across the aisle, her expression carved from stone. Damien Okoye, impeccably dressed in a gray suit, wore a smirk that made Amina's skin crawl. "All rise," the bailiff announced as the judge entered, a tall, stern-faced woman with a reputation for brooking no nonsense. The prosecution began its case methodically, presenting the flash drive, the contracts, the offshore records. Victoria spoke with the calm authority of a seasoned warrior, painting a picture of corporate betrayal that had begun with a single hidden clause and grown into a full-blown conspiracy. Then came Amina's turn. "Call Amina Williams to the stand," Victoria announced. A hush fell over the room as Amina rose. Her knees shook as she walked to the witness stand. The bailiff held out a small black Bible. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" Amina's voice wavered but didn't break. "I do." She sat, folding her hands tightly in her lap. Victoria approached, her voice gentle but unwavering. "Amina," she began, tell us how you first became aware of the suspicious clause in the merger agreement. Amina took a deep breath. I was helping my mother clean the 27th floor, she began. I saw a folder in the conference room printer. I shouldn't have looked, but something told me I had to. So I read the contract and I saw a clause that said if the merger failed, Kiongozi would take all the blame and the other company would walk away. Victoria nodded. What did you do next? I told Mr. Mwangi, Amina said. I couldn't just pretend I didn't see it. And were you threatened after that? Amina's eyes met Chinwei's cold stare. Yes, she said softly. Chinwei told me to keep my nose out of things that didn't concern me. She threatened me and my mother. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Victoria's eyes flashed. And did you see anything else that confirmed Chinwei's involvement? Amina hesitated, then nodded. She met with Damien. I saw them together at the building. She took a flash drive from him. That's the one I gave you. Victoria's face was triumphant. No further questions, Your Honor. The defense attorney, a tall man with a patronizing smile, rose. Miss Williams, he began, his tone dripping condescension. You're a janitor's daughter. You don't have a business degree. How can you possibly claim to understand the complexities of a corporate merger? Amina felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she lifted her chin. I don't have a business degree, she said, her voice clear and strong. But I can read, and I know when someone's trying to hide something. Just because I clean your floors doesn't mean I don't see the dirt. A ripple of approval moved through the gallery. Even the judge's lips twitched in the faintest of smiles. The defense attorney pressed on, but his questions grew more desperate, petty attacks that only made Amina's honesty shine brighter. When he finally sat down, defeated, Victoria rose for one last question. Amina, she said, her voice soft, why did you come forward when you knew it might cost you everything? Amina swallowed, her eyes flicking to her mother. Because the truth matters, she said. Because if people like me stay silent, then people like them win. And I couldn't let that happen. Victoria nodded, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. No further questions. Amina stepped down, her heart light. She'd done it. She'd told the truth. And the truth, she realized, was more powerful than any threat. Outside the courthouse, a sea of reporters waited. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward. Amina clung to Victoria's hand, her mother on her other side. Mwangi stepped to the podium first. Today, we saw what happens when one brave voice refuses to be silenced, he said. Amina Williams didn't just save this company, she reminded us of what we stand for. The crowd erupted in applause. Amina blinked back tears. Beside her, Victoria smiled. You were brilliant in there, she said. No matter what happens next, you've already changed the game. Amina took a deep breath, the weight of fear and doubt lifting from her shoulders. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time she felt ready to face it. The verdict came 2 days later. The jury filed in, their expressions solemn. The judge asked the foreman to stand. On the charge of corporate fraud, the foreman said, we find the defendants guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit financial sabotage, he continued, guilty. Damien's smirk vanished. Chinwei closed her eyes, her lips pressed into a thin line. The judge's gavel fell like thunder. Damien Okoye and Chinwei Mwangi, she intoned. You are hereby sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, with no parole eligibility for the first 7. May this serve as a reminder that no one is above the law. A gasp swept through the courtroom. Amanan turned to Victoria, who squeezed her hand. You did it, Victoria whispered. You changed everything. Amina let out a shaky breath, tears streaming down her face. The battle wasn't over, but today the truth had won. Nairobi's skyline shimmered in the night, a constellation of city lights blinking against the darkness. From the rooftop of Kiongozi Investments, Amina stood alone, the cool evening breeze carrying the faint smell of petrol and street food. The city that had once felt too vast, too intimidating, now felt different. It felt like home, a home she'd fought to save. Below her, the building bustled with new life. Lawyers, accountants, and compliance officers worked late into the night, combing through documents, sealing cracks, and rebuilding what had nearly crumbled. It wasn't the same fortress of glass and steel anymore. It was a fortress built on truth, one she had helped defend. Behind her, the heavy rooftop door creaked open. Amina turned as Victoria Chan stepped out, her black suit catching the city's glow. She carried a folder under her arm and a small smile on her lips. There you are, Victoria said. I should have guessed you'd be up here. Amina shrugged. I needed some air, and I needed to see it all from above. It feels different now. Victoria joined her at the railing, the wind teasing a strand of hair loose from her usually perfect bun. It should feel different, she said, because you changed it. Amina's cheeks warmed. I didn't do it alone. Victoria's gaze softened. No, but you lit the spark. She held up the folder. This just came in from the Financial Crimes Bureau. Damien and Chinway's shell companies have been frozen. Offshore accounts, property holdings, even their trust funds, it's all on lock. Amina let out a slow breath, relief washing over her. So it's over. Victoria shook her head. Not over, but it's beginning to get better. Wangi's working on restructuring Kiongozi's board. No more backdoor deals, no more hidden liabilities. And, she trailed off, a teasing smile on her lips. You got a scholarship offer. Amina's heart stuttered. A scholarship? From where? Victoria handed her the letter. Amina unfolded it, her eyes scanning the crisp official letterhead. University of Nairobi, she whispered. Full tuition, room and board, and an internship at Kiongozi once I graduate. Victoria beamed. You earned every bit of that. Mwangi insisted. He said he's investing in the future starting with you. Amina blinked, tears brimming. I don't even know what to say. Victoria placed a hand on her shoulder. Say you'll keep fighting for what's right, because there's always going to be another Damien, another Chinway, but there's only one you. Amina nodded, wiping her eyes. I promise, she said. I'm not stopping now. The next morning, Amina and her mother walked hand in hand into Kiongozi's gleaming lobby. The air smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. Fatima wore her uniform, but today she held her head higher than Amina had ever seen. They passed by reception, where the new security guard, one who smiled and actually greeted them by name, nodded respectfully. Amina led her mother to a small conference room where Mwangi waited. He rose as they entered, his smile genuine. Mrs. Williams, he said, addressing Fatima, I wanted to thank you personally. Your daughter has saved this company and reminded us all what integrity looks like. Fatima flushed, pride and disbelief warring on her face. Thank you, sir. I always told her to be brave, but I didn't expect this. Mwangi chuckled softly. None of us did, but we're better for it. He turned to Amina. I've spoken with the board. Starting today, Kiongozi is launching the Amina Williams Fellowship, a program for young people with potential, regardless of background. We're done judging people by the uniforms they wear." Amina's eyes widened. "Sir, Mwangi raised a hand. "No speeches, Amina. You've already given us more than enough. Now it's our turn to honor that." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a gold pin engraved with the Kiongozi logo and the words, "Truth, Courage, Honor." Amina's breath caught. She pinned it to her blouse, the weight of it both literal and symbolic. "Thank you," she whispered. Mwangi's smile faltered, his expression turning serious. "I wish that were the end of it," he said. "But Victoria's right, this is just the beginning. Damien and Chinwe had partners, some in the government, some overseas. We've frozen their assets, but they're going to fight back. They'll try to rewrite the story, to smear you, to silence you." Amina squared her shoulders. "Let them try," she said. "I won't stay quiet." Outside, the city buzzed with energy. Newspapers on street corners carried headlines like "Teen Whistleblower Saves Billion-Dollar Firm" and "Kiongozi's New Face of Integrity." Some praised her, others questioned her motives, but no one ignored her anymore. As Amina and her mother walked to the mat tattoo stand, her phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Incoming threat. Chinwee's cousin is an attorney trying to file a lawsuit claiming defamation. I'm on it. Stay alert." Amina's heart raced. She texted back, "I'm ready. Let them come." That evening, Amina sat on the edge of her bed, her textbooks spread before her. Fatima cooked dinner in the small kitchen, humming a tune that Amina hadn't heard in months. Outside, the city lights blinked like a promise. Her phone vibrated again, another text from an unknown number. "We see you. We know where you live." Amina's fingers trembled, but then she remembered Chinwee's threats, Damien's smirk, the boardroom where she'd stood tall and told the truth. She typed back, "I'm not afraid. Bring it." She hit send and placed the phone face down. She wouldn't let them chase her into the shadows. She was done hiding. The next day, Amina returned to Kiongozi, not as a cleaner's daughter, but as an honored guest. The lobby was alive with reporters and cameras. Mwangi stood at the podium, Victoria at his side. "Today," Mwangi began, "we begin a new chapter. One built not on hidden clauses and secret deals, but on integrity and courage. And it all started with a single voice that refused to stay silent." He turned to Amina, his eyes soft. "Amina Williams, you are that voice." Applause thundered through the room. Amina stepped forward, the gold pin on her chest catching the light. She cleared her throat, the words forming in her mind like a spark. "Truth doesn't care what uniform you wear," she said. "And justice doesn't depend on where you come from. I saw something wrong, and I spoke up. And I'd do it again. Because this—" She gestured to the building around her, the people watching. "The future, this is worth protecting." More applause. Cameras flashed. And for a moment, Amina saw not just a building, but a movement, a wave of young people who would grow up knowing that their voice mattered. That night, Amina and Victoria sat on the fire escape outside her apartment. The city hummed below them. "You sure you're ready for what comes next?" Victoria asked. Amina nodded. "I wasn't at first, but now I know who I am, and I know who they are. I'm not backing down." Victoria's smile was warm and fierce. "Good, because the fight's not over. Damien's got people in high places. Chinwee's lawyer is ruthless. They'll try to bury you under lawsuits, public opinion, anything they can throw." Amina met her gaze. "They can try, but I'm not alone anymore. and I've got this." She tapped the gold pin on her chest. "They taught me that truth matters, that even a cleaner's daughter can bring down an empire if she sees the cracks." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Bring down an empire?" Amina's eyes glinted. "No, build a better one." They sat in silence, watching the lights of Nairobi dance like embers in the night. Somewhere across the city, Chinwe waited in a cold prison cell, and Damien plotted his next move. But Amina wasn't afraid. She had faced giants and won. And tomorrow she would keep fighting. Because some fires, once lit, can never be put out.